I'll second that.
That gets the this.
Or have a second. Good evening, everybody. This is the one and only meeting a year in which I begin the meeting and start. Because we are doing a reorganization of school committee roles. I'd like to call the Thursday, April 13th, 2023 meeting to order. And I'd like to entertain a motion for a chair of the school committee.
Dr. Marsden, I'd like to nominate Tim Knight to chair this committee.
A nomination for Tim Knight. Any other nominations?
Can I run for that or do that?
Sure.
Sure.
I'd like to, can I nominate myself?
Yep,
Sure can.
sure can.
I'd like to be chair of the school committee.
Okay. All right, so we have
Can I-
two.
Do I talk more or no?
We talk a lot more.
So I'm taking next year off from work and I'm taking a leave of absence from teaching. And so I just want to like dive in and go for it. So that's it. I'll have the time to do it and I don't know, I just kind of want to do this like all the way. So I just
Sure.
want to put that out there.
All right, any other nominations? Okay, so the first nomination was for Tim. You have any second for Tim?
Second for Tim.
Second for Tim. Any seconds for Will?
I'll second Will.
All right, so we have two people. So first vote would be for Tim. All in favor of Tim being chair, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed?
Say second.
Or abstain.
Or abstain.
All right, majority has picked Tim. So Tim is the new chair. Thank you, Will, for volunteering to do that. Appreciate that.
Congratulations. Tim.
It's all up to you now. Go for it.
And I think I guess that would be, I also want to make sure we stay in order. If you call them. Is there any second or a vote for Will? I guess you wouldn't get a majority. Because
Who wouldn't get a majority, go ahead,
you can
majority.
only vote once.
Yeah, yeah.
No, that's fine.
I want to make sure.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
I read lots of open meeting laws and I wasn't allowed to talk, so this is my time to go for it.
And as my first, I guess, word as chair, welcome to both of you to the school committee. Thank you for serving. And going through it, it should be an interesting road. You know, for me, it's been 4 years. It's been ups and downs, but just a great experience so far. So hopefully folks will enjoy that as well. As far as tonight, we're going to start with public input.
We gotta do the other roles.
Oh,
Yeah.
we're going to do that.
Yeah.
Go with that.
So I would like to open the floor for nominations and approvals for the role of vice chair. Do we have any nominations for vice chair?
I'd like to nominate Michelle Kirkby for vice chair.
Do we have any other nominations?
Go for it, Will.
Well, sure, I'd like to be vice chair.
If you want to nominate yourself.
I want to nominate myself for vice chair.
Do we hear any seconds for Michelle?
So
I second myself.
And, do we hear any seconds for Will as vice chair?
I'll second.
Can I get a vote or a roll call vote for Michelle? All in favor of Michelle? When we raise
Leo
our
Brown, aye.
Michelle Kirkby, aye.
Tonight, all opposed?
Abstain.
Stay.
Okay, Michelle is our vice chair. And then do we have any nominations for recording secretary?
I nominate Leo Brem. Recording secretary.
Do we have any other nominations for recording secretary?
No one's jumping at that one.
Doesn't sound like a good one. Don't I say no?
Okay, do we, any
Yes, second, right?
Oh, do we have a second for Michelle
For Leo.
For Leo as recording secretary?
I'll second.
All in favor for Leo as recording secretary?
Yes, Michelle Kirkby.
Yes, Leo Brown.
Yes, Kristen Zanini.
Yes, Will Horn.
Yes, Tim Knight. And then the last is do I hear any motions or nominations for financial secretary? And that's the last.
You were that, right?
Excuse me.
There was that, yes.
I nominate Kristen Simonini.
Now, why would you do that?
You guys split it anyway. It's a good way to get under the, either one of you. I will nominate.
Do you want to do it?
One, paper, scissors, I.
Well, you both should.
I mean, I'm happy.
You guys should both, you should both
We
take
should
turns
share it.
at doing it, but someone has to be named it.
Okay.
It gives you the opportunity to go through the financial pieces, the actual purchase order.
Yeah, no,
Yeah,
I'd like to do that.
I nominate Will Horn.
Yeah, and I mean, we can, before
Second
going
for
through
Will
that,
Horn.
I know it's a brand new to it. Are there any questions to the role? Over and beyond what Leo just shared?
There's lots of questions, but I'm happy to dive in.
you're a second, you have a second for Mohorn.
I will second Will Horn based on his enthusiasm.
You can't pick second Mohorn, but she did, she seconded Mohorn.
Yeah.
You seconded Will Horn.
That's right. You can ask for a second, but you shouldn't second. But
I
you
nominate.
absolutely have to. No, he's self-nominated.
I,
Oh, he knows. So we went nominated, seconded. Now you call the vote.
Okay. Call to the vote, call to vote, financial secretary. Never seen so much.
blame that pesky Robert guy.
So for Will as, or who is nominated first, for Christine as financial secretary,
No one seconded, so
nobody seconded.
so you can call the vote.
We're just keeping you on your toes, Tim.
So thank you, I'm so happy.
I'm just very
Okay,
good with Robert's rules.
so all in
I am.
favor for Will as financial secretary?
Leo Brown, aye.
Michelle Kirkby, I. Kristen Zanini, I.
Will Horn, aye.
Tim Knight, aye. Vote is unanimous. The only unanimous one of the night.
I know.
That's great. Okay, so, and I think that's everything we have for the reorg. Tell me if I'm,
What about committees? Are we talking
Yeah,
about that too?
For the SBC or who are the
That's on
SBC
the
is on the
agenda,
agenda?
yeah.
Perfect.
yeah, for the SBC, there are a couple other roles that may come up in future meetings. And I think we want to at least get the baseline work. And the SBC we'll talk about a little later. Agenda. Okay, so now I think we're ready. Leo, confirm if that's the case. Are we ready for public input? Or
Follow
Michelle?
the agenda, sir.
I mean, I already jumped.
Okay.
So citizens in attendance or on Zoom will be welcome to comment during this public input. Please approach the mic or raise your Zoom hand. Please share your name and address. And if you're on Zoom and our video is functioning, please turn on your camera for comments. We ask that you follow school committee policy for public input, including speaking for no more than 3 minutes and only on topics under the purview of the school committee.
Owen, could you please promote Michelle on those? Thanks.
Starting with the Zoom.
Oh, Chris, so that there's-
So you got something? I don't think we
I just didn't
We do
know.
have one hand raised.
I wanted to
Yeah.
take up that one first, if you want.
Okay.
Yeah,
Go ahead.
there.
Chris Potts, 7 Curve Street. I just wanted to comment on a couple of things with regard to the strategic planning process. This session, the community session at Dale Street last week was really phenomenal. I think that the expectation or the hope that it would be actually a way to bring people together, I think really played out very well. I walked away from that feeling really, really good. So I just wanted to make sure to relay that comment and that feedback because it was really a wonderful night. I would only ask that the school committee as a whole makes a commitment to making sure that the draft plan is available to the public well in advance of whatever meeting you guys are going to be reviewing it at. It's not a document that really should be posted an hour before the meeting starts, or even 48 hours in advance of the meeting. It would be very helpful to have it posted much earlier than that, so that people could actually come to the school committee meeting and make comments about the draft strategic plan, in case there's anything that needs to be added or changed. I will tell you that with the last strategic plan, a whole bunch of us had advocated to have it available so that the community could comment. And the feedback that we got, in fact, from Dr. Marston, was that step was actually really helpful. There were things that were in the plan that people noticed that were missed by school committee and by consultants. And there was not, I don't remember there being a whole big volume of changes, but there was really good feedback that was helpful. So I would just ask that the school committee really make a commitment to making it available to the public further in advance. That's it. Thanks.
Thank you. And then do I,
You can promote the panels.
guys? And then they just have to turn on their,
Yeah.
okay. Mike, could you please turn on your camera and microphone?
I'm trying. It tells me the host isn't letting me.
You would have to make like co-panelists.
Change.
That's what for Owen, maybe. That's what we've had to do. Policy meetings.
Because he's a co-host now.
I mean, I promise I'm here. Well, there we go.
Oh, turn the camera on.
All right. We good to go?
Yeah.
Thanks, Mike.
All right, Mike Pastori, 6 Liberty Road. I just wanted to talk about the citizens petition, and I believe that's on the agenda, so we're good, right?
Correct.
So, I mean, I will be voting against this if it comes up at annual town meeting. Number of issues with it, but they can all kind of be lumped under 2 categories, process and purpose. Example of process that I have strongest issue with, and you know, I don't know if this has changed since the version that I have seen, but there's a bit in there about the hearing having to be scheduled within 30 days. And what's unclear to me in a plain reading of that is if the hearing has to take place within 30 days or just has to be put in the schedule and can actually take place sometime later. And that's to me, that's an example of something that, you know, is important, needs to be worked out, and needs to be made clear before the petition is ready for prime time, which I don't believe it is. More importantly, though, is the purpose. So right now, 25 registered voters is enough to set this process in motion and require a hearing. What I don't think is part of it is that those voters actually have to commit to going to the hearing. And if that isn't part of it, then I'm not really sure what this petition, what it does, what its purpose is, and you know what you know we intend to do with this. Because I mean, I could go to the transfer station tomorrow and got 25 signatures for effectively anything, and you know, there's no telling that those people would actually, you know, go through and put the time in and support and show up at a meeting. So if we're just saying you get 25 signatures and you get your own hearing, you know, we can put all this time, effort, money and energy into having a hearing effectively for, you know, a handful of people. And it's, I'm not sure what problem we're fixing with this this petition. So I'm hoping that the school committee will oppose, and obviously hoping that town meeting does as well.
Thank you, Mike.
Okay, thanks, Mike.
Take care. Thanks everyone for your work.
There anyone else or any other answers?
There are no other hands raised.
All right, so we'll close out. And so we'll go into the consent agenda. The first one is approval of minutes, one for the workshop on March 17th, 2023, as well as the regular meeting on March 23rd, 2023. both of which are in the packet. Do I hear, or do we do the consent?
Do the whole
agenda?
thing,
All
yeah.
of it together. Jeff, do you want to speak to the other?
Yeah, so Michael has put in here a couple of things, the Medfield High School Student Activity Adjustment Journal. And the Blake Middle School discontinued student activity account transfer. Michael, you want to just real quick? Sure. Just so folks know, I know it's information that should be in their packet, so we'll just give a quick overview. I don't. Let me see. I might have it right here. Okay, all right.
First one, if I'm not mistaken, is the high school.
Yeah, right here, Michael.
That's your hair.
Yeah, thank you.
For the class of 2023, I'd like to make a donation to the class of 2024 to offset the prom ticket prices. And we want to make a donation to the class of 2024, $3,000. We would have to do a transfer from one account to the other. And, Master Law requires the school committee approve the transfer from one account to the other. And we need a vote on that.
What's a consent
So
agenda?
consent
Consent agenda,
Yeah,
so.
Next,
yeah,
we need to
so,
hear about the Blake
yeah.
Middle School.
And then the other one is the Blake Middle School has inactive accounts. And they would like to transfer those inactive accounts into other accounts that are active. For example, there are a field trip account that they would like to transfer into it's a 7th grade field trip account from last year, but they just want to transfer back into the 8th grade trip for this year. So those are examples of balances that they want to clear up and then move into other accounts. Okay.
And there are 4 donations. $2,000 from the Schoenfeld family, MHS gift account to support the Boys and Girls Track Program. $500 from Gail Duffy to MHS gift account for the Renaissance Scholarship. $1,430 from the Wheelock PTO to the Wheelock gift account for the field trip to Native Community Organic Farm. And $1,000 from Jordan's Furniture to the Blake Intramural account. This donation is a result of Blake Middle School student Michael McCarthy's coat drive fundraiser. Congratulations, Michael, great work. I ask that you approve those as presented.
Okay. And this part's new to me, but I think just before voting on the entire, all those topics, is there any of those topics that are concerning to anybody that we should pull out and vote on individually?
Well, we can't vote on the first one because we weren't present for the meeting, so I don't know if you need to separate that out.
No, you'll just, yeah, that's a good way to stop.
Yeah, but that's, I think as this is consent agenda is relatively new for us to approve, but the reason we pull it out is if there is anything, we can vote on that separately.
What, consent just means we do it all at once, like what is?
Yeah.
For more operational items, so. Instead of having to vote each one, so it was just a method to kind of tidy up the process a little bit.
Okay.
And
Yeah, and then I'm asking though, is it one of them you either have questions or you want, but you don't want to have to feel like we're not forcing you to vote on all of them.
you're more than welcome to ask
Not a
any
package
questions.
deal.
Yeah, and Kristen made a good point, like, because you weren't present for those minutes, you should abstain.
So why don't, first, do I hear an approval for the minutes for the 3/17/2023 workshop and the regular meeting on 3/23/2023?
So moved.
Second, Michelle Kirkby.
All in favor?
Aye. Michelle Kirkby.
Yeah, Brett.
All opposed?
All abstained.
All abstains?
Abstain,
Right.
this is the
Yeah,
meeting.
looks like there's two abstains. Yeah. Kristen and Will. Okay, and then do I hear a nomination or I think we did say approved.
For the minutes?
Yeah,
Minutes are approved. Yeah.
Minutes are approved, yes.
Now you want to do the consent.
yeah.
The
And then,
remainder of
for the
the
remaining items on the consent agenda, do I hear a motion?
so moved.
Second, Michelle Kirkby.
All in favor?
Aye.
It sounds like it's unanimous. Okay, new business, student advisory. Right,
All right.
Once I'm even short, it's warming up here.
Tess is gonna start,
Right,
okay.
that's gonna start. That should become a star by the way. Star in the paper.
Yeah. Good to see them.
Hi, my name is Sis Bobby, Director of the School Committee for the class of 2026. I asked my class to fill out a form with some concerns, questions, comments, and these are some of the responses. As some of the ninth graders reflect on the first year of the high school, a lot more people have started to bring up student standards-based reporting at the middle school. I have always heard people talking about this, but I feel like it's more talked about now. Many people say that the middle school did not properly prepare us for the high school. There was not much homework, so many people had a hard time balancing extracurriculars with all the work. We also never really got to find what study habits work for us in one. Another thing that also might be tough on the transition to the high school is that there has been discussions about how C1 and C2 will be combined for the ninth grade English and history next year. Many students have expressed concern because they didn't feel that ninth graders' needs will be met, and the adjustment period is already very hard for the incoming freshmen, as said before. So this would add another layer of stress. Lastly, the ninth grade and 10th grade student governments are planning a movie night fundraiser. We're still determining the exact details like the location, date, but it should be sometime around May, I think. And we'll keep everyone updated. Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Good input.
Hi, I'm Sophie Shield and I'm the rep school committee for the class of 2025. So as you said, like we're doing a movie night and yeah, more details will come. And so us sophomores, there's not much going on, but we finished MCAS for English. We got report cards out for all the grades today for Q3 and spring sports just started. And then, oh, so we're still selling like dog leashes, and so I think we're planning a day to sell those at the Wheelock Fields. But like more details will be on Facebook about when we do that one of these weekends. Yeah, there's not much else going on, but that's really it. And I definitely agree with Tess about like the standards-based grading and like the transition from 8th to 9th grade is definitely like difficult. I feel like harder like homework and stuff like that could help.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Catherine Bannister. I'm the rep school committee for the class of 2024. I just have a few things to say today. Spring sports are in full swing here. We have had a couple of games per team. Track has definitely had a couple of moves, I know. Everything seems to be going well and everyone's happy that the weather's finally taking a turn and getting nice out. My grade's definitely starting to do much more future planning, whether it's college, where you want to go in the future, what careers you might be interested in. And I know plenty of people, if college is the right fit for them, are starting to take some visits down this April vacation. And the student government for my grade is planning prom. It's going to be May 5th. We were able to get the opportunity to visit Gillette last week. It was nice to see the venue and we could plan it out. We're definitely looking forward to that. We have posters around the school, so everyone's pretty well aware, and prom tickets are officially on sale and table assignments, which is exciting. So yeah, everyone's looking forward to that.
Catherine, how's the menu this year?
It's looking good. We have
All
some
right.
nice chicken parm and steak and salad
Nice.
and 2 Sunday bars. So
All right.
thank you.
Thank you for that.
Thank you.
Sounds like Jeff will be chaperoning this year.
Hello, I am Gabby Kroll. I'm a senior rep to the school committee. Basically what everyone's saying, it's kind of, as we're going into April break, term 3 just winded down. So now it's kind of finally hitting term 4, seeing the end of it. For a lot of juniors and seniors, AP exams are coming up. So kind of when we get back from break, that's gonna be like full swing, just studying for those. Senior wise, we just started senior projects this week. So there's a huge population of our grade is out of school most of the time and they're working on a lot of things. I'm not doing one personally, so I don't know that much about it, but I know everyone who's doing it is saying it's a really cool thing and they're really excited for the opportunity. Same with senior privileges. We've had those for about 4 weeks, so two times per the 8-day cycle, so it's not that often, but everyone likes those pretty much. Just a good chance to leave school, get a drink, whatever you want to do. Government wise, right now we're planning, a big event that we're planning is we're replacing the 4 kicks that they had normally been doing with a launch event, which is the night before graduation, so June 2nd. And that's just planned by the government. And then we're also planning our senior gift, whatever that's going to end up being. Other than that, everything's going well. Spring sports, like Catherine had mentioned. And then off of what Tess said, I know that has been a lot of like a huge topic of discussion. Just a lot of people saying that transition is harder and just kind of like almost a slap in the face, depending on what you set yourself up for when you come into high school. And I know even Emily Hollander and Cassie McDonald, their senior project is working on that. They're doing a senior project on helping middle schoolers transition to high school. So I know it's something a lot of people have in their mind. I don't know what they're exactly planning to do yet, but hopefully it's something cool. But that's all I had. So.
Just one follow-up. What's the explain the shift from 4 kicks? I'm just curious.
Oh yeah. I guess it's just an event they do the night before graduation. They have all the seniors go, and it's just kind of like, it's almost like a senior night out, just a fun thing they do. And they just go, they'd previously been going to 4 kicks for I think 4 years or something, and there's just turf there. So this year we wanted to switch it because we heard from seniors last year that they thought if we found a better facility for it. So we reached out and we found launch seemed like a really good idea, and it's something a lot of people are excited about.
Which one? Which launch is it?
Norwood.
Oh, no, okay.
Yeah.
Good.
Yeah, they just
Short bus
added
ride.
laser tag apparently, so it's gonna be good.
And congrats, Medfield girls hockey got the MIA Sportsmanship Award this year,
Yeah,
right? It's a
yeah.
pretty big deal, so
It was awesome.
congratulations.
Yeah, we went to the Garden a couple weeks ago, but I'm on the ice. It's really cool.
Yeah.
Really cool opportunity.
Thank you. And I'm not sure too, if there's, before these folks go, if there's any questions. on
Can I ask a question? So I don't know if we're allowed to.
Yep, absolutely.
Tess, it's for you. And my name is Will. I'm a wicked big fan, and my kids are wicked big fans. It's awesome watching you drive. And Izzy making the shots in the corner. It's awesome. And I promise I'm more nervous than you are right now. But can you go over the concerns of the C1, C2 thing again?
Yeah.
From the student perspective?
Can you come up to the mic? Yeah, yeah. Just so the people at home can hear you. Yeah. The thousands of them that are listening.
So some people feel like their needs are not being met, and like some people will like, if they're both like C1 and C2 are combined in one class, I think they feel like for some people it might be too fast and like too hard on them, and other people feel like it might be like too slow.
Sure.
And I feel like it just doesn't really accommodate like both like learning. And like lots of people are really scared about it, and like I'm not sure how it will work out, but I think it will definitely make the transition harder, especially for the people that should have been in C2, and it will like I think they'll really struggle a little bit getting used to it.
Yeah, I think the assumption that everyone's making is that it's going to be done the exact same way it is today. So there'll be changes made in terms of the instruction and in the way they're doing it to make accommodations for everyone. So I think that when you look at it from the perspective of how it's going today, then that I can see that. But you know, we've been doing professional development with the teachers, and they'll be making some changes in how they do that. So as Robert went through in the last meeting, went through in detail.
I don't know if it's a fair question, but just from what you know of your friends that have experienced that transition, do you see or can you tell if there's a difference based on perhaps the cluster that the kids came from? Because I know that sometimes, at least I hear the rumblings of different experiences, right? Different kids, different teachers. I'm wondering if you noticed that.
I haven't really noticed much. I know some clusters are more prepared because like some clusters for social studies give like some clusters get more tests, and like some don't get much. So I feel like some people are more prepared, but I feel like we didn't really have that much, so we didn't really know how to study that. Like we didn't know what study techniques work for us or anything like that. So I feel like it like didn't really change that much really.
Okay, so thank you.
The C1,
Thanks, Tess.
C2 is happening next year.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's still
Sometimes Penn had the pandemic years to this classes.
Right, it's tough.
Are there any other questions or comments? So next up now's the time we do need to vote another member to the, oh no, we need to vote 2 members to the.
Thank you.
Yeah, it was, thanks so much.
You don't want to stay all night?
It's for the,
They usually do. It must be you two.
there's not as many fans here as there are at the basketball and other games, for sure. That's okay. So yeah, we, next on the agenda is we need to talk about having 2 representatives to the strategic plan steering committee.
Right, so as we talked about before, as part of, we're putting that steering committee together. We have students, we have teachers, we have administrators, we have parents, and we're looking at having 2 school committee members on there. Of course, we can't have 3 because of the quorum issue, but it's a superintendent appointed committee that, you guys will be a part of. So I don't know how you want to do that or how you want to work that out, but we'll definitely need.
I would like to participate.
I would like to participate.
I would like to participate.
Yeah, might as well go all the way through. I would like to participate. Is there anyone else who wants to participate?
I'm saving my energies for other matters.
Yeah, Kristen. I heard about that. Second is does anyone have questions about that process with and maybe Jeff also remind us what the commitment is?
Yeah,
so high level expectations.
It is, it'll be 6 3-hour meetings, beginning at the end of April. I need to pull the dates up, so. See what they are, but it's 3:30 to 7:30. 4:30 to 7:30, 6 3-hour meetings. And the consultants will be working with us. We'll be going over items such as, we'll do a data analysis of all the data that we got from the surveys, the focus groups, and all the other information that we gave them. We gave them the panorama surveys, district improvement, like everything. So we gave them a lot of information. We'll be going through all of that. We'll revisit our mission statement, our vision statement, core values, identify those as a district, and then start to really develop, what the focus areas are, the kind of the 4 or 5 pillars, and then develop goals with that. So it's a process that they lead and they go through with us, but it's important to have, the stakeholders as part of that.
How do we fight this out?
Well, I'll withdraw because I think, I've been on the longest, and I think it'd be good to have a new member,
Yeah,
I think, be there, and I think.
A new member and an old member, which is good.
So, we don't call them old, we call them experienced.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm probably older than ever.
So I will withdraw that, my interest. So, but it's a nomination process. So I will nominate Michelle Kirkby if she's interested.
Thank you. Yes, I've been very excited about this all year and really want to be a part of it. So
I'll nominate Will Horn.
There you go.
Yeah, I mean, I really want to do this between looking at curriculum, PD, goals and everything. I mean,
yeah.
I think it'd be crazy for me not to be on this with my background in education. This is what I'm trying to bring the value to the school committee, so.
I agree.
So the consensus then, it'll be Michelle and Will.
Well, Tim, are you?
If there's other nominations, and I'll say I go back and forth. I think it's probably one of the most important things we're going to do. It's a strategic plan, obviously. I think as we've talked about it, or even like predecessor with Anime as well, we'd like to think that the output of that strategic plan really does drive our agendas. What are we going to put on it? So I think on the one hand, I've actually, as I started thinking about it, my role in it, on one hand, I thought it would be great to have some of the new members, because that is why we're doing it for the longer term.
Yep.
And on the other hand, I thought as a strategic plan, it's one of those things where the more senior folks at least have the experience to guide it.
yeah, I can see that.
But
Can I make a motion?
personally, I'm glad to, I don't feel an obligation. I feel very comfortable.
I make a motion to nominate Michelle and Will Horn to the strategic plan committee.
Mr. Chair, I don't know if you have to vote this because it's not a subcommittee, it's an
Appointment from the
superintendent appointment.
Oh, okay.
So if we have
Committee,
consent,
so.
we
We're
don't need
good.
to vote on it.
So if you had consensus, then you're.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to say that I'm okay with that. It's again, provided
You have plenty to do on policy.
we're looking for harmony.
Plenty.
Women where possible. So yeah, and that's going to be an appointment on your part.
Right,
Sounds
so
like we have-
I'll send out an email. I think we're almost done. We have one more teacher position, and then, so either tomorrow afternoon or, early next week, you get that. That's everything. Both the times.
And even while we're there, anything else noteworthy going on that?
No, I think it's, the consultants were very pleased with the turnout at the community and parent guardian forum that we had. They said they got a lot of good feedback that night. They also said they got a lot of good feedback meeting with the select board, the warrant committee, and the town moderator this week. So they have a lot of information, and one of the things that they credited us for is, which I've never seen, is they never had the focus group for the teachers done as part of their faculty meeting. So we did that, and that was something we learned the last time, because teachers couldn't get freed up in the day that we had it, and we only had maybe 10 or 15, and we have a lot more teachers than that. So by having it as part of the faculty meeting, everyone got a chance, everyone got a voice. So it was really good. I was there for the beginning of the student one, and the consultant said that went really well too. So been all positive so far. The last check, I asked them how many surveys were filled out yesterday, and it was 775 as of yesterday, and that's ahead of what we had last time. So that's good. Yeah, so we should have oodles of information.
Where was the survey made available?
I'm sorry?
The survey, where was it made available? Just remind me.
An email came out from the superintendent, and then it's in
Email,
our social site.
patch. We put some hard
Patch.
copies in the
Patch.
senior center.
Okay, great.
And
Yeah,
it's on our website.
Okay.
on the website too.
With all that data, like obviously we have the consultants that are gonna do their thing, but do we get to see like all the raw data too if we're on that committee, just to?
It's my understanding, yes.
You get to see
Yeah.
it too, yeah. I mean, it's public information.
700's a lot, but like,
Yeah.
Yeah, so
sometimes they put things together and you might miss some little outliers.
So I think one of the things that they said they were going to do is scrub it in terms of people's names and things like that came up. If, they mentioned teachers' names or something, they were going to do that.
Yeah,
But I'm pretty sure that's part of the process, is looking at all that data.
thanks.
Yep.
It's great. It's, yeah, I mean, that was the event. I think a few of us were there. It was fantastic. Yeah. It's the community one.
For sure.
Yeah.
Okay, and then there's the other topic is the school building committee member appointment. And I think Jess is no longer part of the school committee. So there's one spot that's open.
Correct.
And, first off, is there any questions
I nominate
on
myself.
the role or before I take a nomination?
Love these rules. These are fun. I nominate me. I think we all know what that one
I second
needs
the
to be.
nomination of Kristen Simonini for the.
Where's my gavel? I haven't seen one in my 4 years here. Do I hear a nomination for the school building committee member?
I nominate Kristen Simonini.
I second the nomination.
Hey, excellent. All in
Done and
favor?
done.
Was that, huh?
Hi, Michelle Kirkby.
Hi, Leo Brim.
Aye, Tim Knight.
Hi, Kristen Simonini.
I will Horn.
It's unanimous. Congratulations.
Congratulations.
Welcome.
Good luck.
Same to you, brother.
We got it.
Just on the SBC as well, when we met last, I gave them the yellow folder that you two now have, which was on behalf of the school committee. So they have been tasked with reading through it and emailing any questions they have to me and the two SBC chairs, and we will be addressing those questions at hopefully the next meeting or the meeting after that, or splitting the questions into two, depending on how many questions there are. So
Do you have the date of the next meeting?
April 27th.
Don't know.
That was great. I mean, putting that together, was that,
Yeah.
it was well received, but it was just more kind of presented as read it over, or did they have any feedback or conversations?
Yeah, there was no feedback immediately. I mean, I think part of it was if you go to any of the previous project, data points, there's just such a wealth of information that I think the goal is to kind of get everybody to start from the same foundation. And when our area coming from the education pieces, these are some of the things that we feel are really important for the SBC to be focusing on. So I think they appreciated that kind of honing in, start here and then branch out versus start wherever you want.
Yeah.
And then just to that point, we submitted the SOI. So the
Okay.
SOI has been submitted. You folks approved it, or the select board approved it. We signed off on it last week, and that has been submitted to MSBA.
Okay.
Okay, so next up on the agenda is the discussion of a citizen's petition. I know that came up earlier. Just that I do not have the actual petition. Did anyone hear this? But the summary of it is a citizen petition has been brought forward for the town meeting. That would require public hearings by the Medfield School Committee in the event that somebody gets signature from 25 or more citizens on whatever topic that signature is around. So the warrant committee, I think it was Steve Callahan from the warrant committee, had reached out and asked if one or two of us could be represented on their meeting. I think it was on 4/25. So we thought it would be worthwhile to just talk about it as a group, just to get, kind of be able to relay that conversation. I don't think we were going to plan on voting on it because I think the warrant committee was still asking.
There's nothing to vote except for.
No, but we would just like to communicate what the general.
I wouldn't mind attending the meeting for the warrant commission, but under the conversation, I appreciate Dr. Marston, you reaching out to Timmy Lahane about to weigh in on their interpretation of the.
Yeah, Tim did that.
Oh, Tim, thank you. Because I think, obviously that this leaves our expertise to have that interpretation. Has this been shared with the other town committees, Jeff or Tim?
I was going to ask, this just came
The
in.
opinion just came in this afternoon.
Yeah, okay.
And
CC'd on.
So are we talking about this to give our opinion for if the town votes on this?
The warrant committee asked us to give our opinion because they vote on first, right? Like when you go to town meeting, the warrant committee usually votes on how they
weigh in
They feel on whatever.
Yes.
on each of the articles.
So they wanted the school committee's opinion on this before they weighed in on the
Okay.
topic.
Right. So.
Came in 4/21 today.
Yeah, so we haven't had time to circulate. So essentially what it's saying is that anybody can go get 25 signatures on any subject, and we would be required to host a public hearing about that subject
Right.
within 30 days.
So
It could be about popsicle sticks in the lunchroom. So,
my recommendation to the warrant committee would be to not approve this or recommend the town to vote on this. I hope in being on the school committee that there are big enough issues that I can talk to everyone in town and figure it out. I think this would slow down decision-making, but I hope it's not necessary. So I want to say it. I want to be able to talk to the community members so no one feels like they have to do this. And if they want they want more public input, then they can come talk to me. I live at 6 Pondview Avenue. I think something like this would slow down our decision-making process, but I'm here to listen to anyone who wants to talk.
I think the whole point of having public school committee meetings is that there is an opportunity for the public to participate. I think this is a step too far. I think that some of the feedback from the warrant committee about the fact that the reason we have elections and put people into roles and elected positions is for this reason. And so if we're not trusting the people that we've elected to do their jobs, then I don't see why this is a necessary step. And so my hope is that we can, build trust in our community and we can, make the right decisions that we've been asked and elected to make. And when there are big decisions like budgets that do have townwide meetings associated with them, I think that's perfectly appropriate. And it seems to me as though the committee and administration has been honoring the laws as they stand. So I too would not be in favor of this as it's been written.
and currently the opinion of the attorney feels like it infringes on our basic charge from mass general law. So I think there's other questions from a legal perspective that the warrant committee will have to take under consideration. But I concur with both of you. I share that same opinion of the size of our town. We are a small town. There's plenty of opportunity to speak to people. I'm sure you've already been approached numerous times since your election about opinions and things to be brought up. Right? And Dr. Marston is always more than open, and the principals you'll find will be very receptive to having conversations. So on any of those subjects, I do agree with both of you on that particular piece.
I also don't support this. When I read it my initial reading, my reaction was, because I feel like it kind of reads like, wait, did we deny somebody a request for a hearing? And I haven't seen that happen. Granted, I've only been here a year, but this past year, no individual made a request to the school committee that got denied. I'm not saying that it's never happened, but I'm saying it definitely didn't happen this past year. All 5 of us got a request and all 5 of us said no. In regards to just kind of public comment, if anything, I've seen us extend it this past year multiple times for great lengths to hear people say what they wanted to say. I think one of our longer ones was close to 90 minutes. So I guess I just feel that very strongly that this is trying to solve a problem that I don't believe exists. I mean, I think you could add on the fact that, like, I've only been on here a year and we have 2 new members. Like, we are now a newer and younger committee, so it also feels like putting a ruling on us without us having an opportunity to kind of define ourselves, given the amount of newness that we have.
I will say, Tim was here during the pandemic, as myself and some of the others. We scheduled our meetings weekly during the pandemic to be open for that feedback, right? To understand what was happening with our folks. I think that the school committee, and traditionally, from my experience, has been very responsive to the community in those requests. The pandemic, obviously, an extenuating circumstance, but a good example of why we did that was to make sure that we were communicating all the time and leaving the floor open. I do recall some pretty lengthy Zoom meetings that went on quite some time. That, to make sure that everybody was heard. And we did have to make some adjustments because when you have 300 people and they all want to say something. But that was an extreme situation, but I don't think we've changed our attitude towards that in any way in our practices. So, and with 3 new people here, you guys now have majority as the new folks. So those practices could also adjust as seen fit as well. So I agree with the whole concept of our openness.
I also feel like the 25 signatures was really low, given that you need 200 signatures to call a special town meeting and 50 plus signatures to get your name on the ballot. Not that I would know that, but there's still a lot more grassroots effort that has to be done to have either of those things and more community engagement around our citizens to have that happen. I think that the biggest underlying issue, though, and I felt that this opinion piece, said it much more eloquently than I'm going to be able to, but it completely undermines the authority of the school committee as an elected body. But I think that the concept of this is actually bigger than the school committee, because if we end up in this place where we are looking at town meeting as a legislative body and allowing it to mandate or dictate how a committee of elected or appointed officials or board of elected or appointed officials, how they function or how they run their business that they need to, I think it threatens the entire electoral process as it stands right now. And I think that's something that we really need to be cognizant of as a community when we're looking at this.
Well, and the reality is it would just cause lots of extra, right?
Yeah.
A lot of extra hoops. So
I kind of, that's one of the ones, I echo a lot of what I've heard, but I also thought about that. If there was, for whatever reason, 25, 30 people who were opposed to an issue, they could come forward and force us to bring public hearings week after week after week. And as that evolves, it may change the appetite for folks like you, all of us, to raise their hand and serve.
Yeah.
So I kind of echo a lot of what I've heard. In general, I've watched everybody. It's been a common sense approach, right? There are times when we've called public hearings. I think it's like for the logo was sometimes it's more appropriate. We really do need to advertise it and get the word out. But I've also seen us, public comment. We don't have to adhere 100%. We can extend it, and I've seen us do that. So I would agree. It just doesn't seem necessary. And outside of the legal side, I think we assume we can post this, the legal opinion. We should. So I don't know that we should speak at length at that, but I think that I've at least captured the general spirit of how we feel.
Yeah, I think one other thing too, when I was listening to the warrant committee, there seemed to be a misunderstanding on why we restructured public comment. So I just wanted to state again that none of it was to ever silence the community, and just kind of explain some of the reasons behind why we did that. So one of the big reasons to have a designated time slot at the beginning of the meeting is because it's more equitable for the entire community to be able to come speak to the school committee. The time allows people who have challenges in regards to childcare to be able to come speak to us. It also allows us to organize the meeting in a more efficient manner so we can have a better use of time of all 5 of us together being able to go through the agenda, discuss different things, and move things, just move ourselves through the agenda. Also, the previous public comment period and policy didn't really align with districts around us and wasn't really in line with what was going on with MASC. And the wording in general in the policy was very confusing, I think, to not just members of community, but sometimes us. So those were more the reasons that we did the restructuring. It had nothing to do with silencing members of our community.
Oh, thank you. And
I apologize. I do have to take a little early. So, welcome to our new members very much,
Yes,
and the community. Look forward to working with you.
Thanks.
okay, I think unless there's any other comments on that, I think we could. Sharon, I think the only other question is, I would like to go to that meeting. Does anyone else want to go?
I think Leo expressed
Leo
an
said he
interest.
wanted to go.
Leo wants to go. Okay, great.
He's got, set him up for everything.
Yeah. The 25th, what was it?
Yeah, April 25th. Any other items since posting?
No, Mr. Chair, no other items.
Okay, all right.
Well, actually, a question on that. How does new items work? Do we, because I don't want to break any rules, but if we want to bring something up that was raised, should we put it on our next agenda?
Yeah, there's, at the end of the agenda today, there's a time for at least future agenda
Okay,
topics.
perfect. I will hold.
And I'll,
Learning
so
well.
actually, why don't we defer until that time just to talk about that?
Okay, great.
If that makes sense. Okay. Then under old business, I think we're going to talk about an update on the bus fees.
Yes.
I don't know whether, Dr. Marston, you're going to take it? or-
Sure. So in your packet and your materials, you have this document here that Michael put together. He was doing some projections and looking at potential bus fee revenue using our current enrollment. So we wouldn't be able to do anything, obviously, next school year. It'd be something we have to do the following school year. But you know, on the front of it, you see that there are area bus fees from other communities. You see Dedham, Holliston, Millis, Natick, Needham, Norwood, Walpole, Westwood, and then the median per child is $261 with the family cap at $492. And then he color coded it in a way that students that require transportation are over 2 miles. So those numbers in yellow, the 102, the 151, the 141, et cetera, those are students that are required to be transported. You'll notice that the ones that are in tan are not required to be transported, but we still do that right now. So those are all students 7 through 12, and then students that live under 2 miles away from school. So that gives you a flavor of what, you know, you could look at this 2 ways. You could say, well, we could do bus fees for everyone in the tan, or you could just bus everyone, not bus people that are in the tan. I mean, you could, I'm not advocating for that. I don't think it's a good idea. I'm just saying that's what could happen. You could do that if you wanted to. And then we took a look at those folks, the grade levels we think is about 80% that use transportation. So that was looking at grade 1, at grade 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 7, 8, that about 80% take transportation. And then that tends to fall down once they get a little older. So grades 9 and 10, 65% take transportation, and then falls even more in grades 11 and 12. We project about 10% of our kids use transportation. So by calculating and using this methodology, we looked at a total ridership of 968 students. And then if we did a $200 fee, the revenue based on the students we have now, not the ones we would do if we implemented this in a couple of years, would be 174,249. That is our projected amount there. So I know we're just kind of bringing this up for conversation tonight, and we need more study and more work to be done on this, but that's what you asked us to do a couple of weeks ago at the last, a couple of meetings ago, to kind of put together an estimate, explain the methodology, and do some comparisons with other districts.
So Jeff, for those of us who are newer to this, can you just help us understand why, or at least help me understand why, I don't want to group you in, I apologize, why this is even being entertained? What was the rationale?
I think every year almost every year it's come up as a budget issue. So as we start to look at reductions that we need to make during the budget process, this seems to come up as a way to generate revenue instead of, cutting the other items in the budget. So I think it's something that we've talked about almost every year that I've been here. Never acted on it, but just had a conversation about it.
And what other communities are doing this today?
I would say around us, everyone but Medway, they're not doing it. And then Dover-Sherburne can't do it because they're a regional school district and they can't charge bus fees. But as I look around, Dedham, Holliston, Millis, Natick, Needham, Norwood, Walpole, Westwood, they all do bus, and they have for years. This isn't anything new. So it's more of a conversation for us to see if that's something we want to entertain or have us do further study on it to bring back more information to you.
I mean, it's my mother was a school bus driver, so it's I grew up with a school bus in my damn driveway. It's hard because I think anybody who grew up in public education, right, that was just part and parcel to your education, getting you to school, getting you access to school was important. I understand that times are different. I know the costs have skyrocketed, and we've got issues with, even having available drivers and everything. So I get that. Having the information about the other communities is very interesting. I'm frankly a little surprised. I didn't realize towns had done that or gone in that direction. In my heart of hearts, it's a hard thing to think about, just because I wouldn't want to put any barriers. And if families were not in a position to be able to pay for that, there would need to be obviously exemptions.
Absolutely.
But this is one, I think, where the families are going to have some pretty strong opinions.
I agree. Yeah, for sure.
Do we have any information on the administrative cost of this and like what the time looks like? And
yeah, we would have to, that's kind of the more study that we need to do to see what we would have to do in terms of payment and whether we'd have to hire someone part-time to do some of this for us, to collect the fees and do all that. We'd have to see that. And Kristen, get back to your point, it would just be used as an offset to the budget. So we would, whatever revenue we get in, we would offset our transportation budget by that number. So right now, I think it's 1.4 million, Michael, just for the big yellow buses. Yeah, so 1.4 million now for next year. So whatever revenue we raise would just offset that cost.
Yeah.
Well, I'll just say, my question would be around, do we know, I know a lot of neighboring towns have been doing it for like a while. Was there any way, you said it's like 80% or 65, like, I just don't know how we get the drop off, right? Because like, as soon as you charge, if it's going to be, if it's going to be 200 students, and then is it worth it or worth us taking to the town and doing that? So that's my concern. I just don't know how we make this like an accurate study, and then even if we get like, the neighboring towns 10 years ago did it, now we're post-COVID. I think there's more people from home. There's more ability to drive your kid and spend that time with them. So it just, it's just going to be really hard for, I guess, if you guys are charged with making the study or us looking at it, to figure out what the real number is for what could be like, not a fight with the community, but people might have strong feelings about this. But, and I want to say, because Anna May said it in the last meeting, and a piece of me feels this way, that it is a nice, even if it's not a huge amount of money, or if it is, gets to $150,000 still. I think that she said this in the last meeting, there is something to like the people who are using the school paying a little extra per kid, for all the people that live in town, pay their taxes, but aren't taking advantage of the schools. So I'm like on both sides. I know I'm talking out of both sides of my mouth, but those are two things in my head. Hard to do this study the right way, because you don't know how many people will drop out, and I think there is something to the gesture, even if it's like $200 isn't covering all of our expenses,
Right.
but I think there is something to, if you're sending the kid to school, like you help pick up a little bit of money for everyone else who lives in town and helps pay for our kids to go to school.
So one of the things that complicates this in our town is the structure of our schools. So we don't have a neighborhood school structure. So, and I give this example all the time. You could have one child in Memorial and not pay a bus fee, but a child at Wheelock and pay a bus fee based on where you live. So if it's more than 2 miles to one school, you have to pay for that child. Excuse me. If it's within 2 miles, you have to pay for that child. If it's more than 2 miles, you don't. So depending on where you live and what school your child's going to, you may be paying for one and not the other. So that complicates things a little bit too.
What, is there a time when we have to like vote on this to get to, I know you said it won't be this fall, but would there be like a deadline, or is that still some of the logistics, like how do we collect the fees? And
Yeah, I mean, I think if you wanted to implement this for the following school year, we probably want to do something by December, January. I mean, the latest, so that we.
Okay, so it gives us plenty of time to talk to the
absolutely.
community and figure
Absolutely.
out where they're
Right.
at. All right.
Yeah. Yeah, this was just a couple of meetings ago. The committee asked us to put this together to provide more information. So that's all it is.
All right.
I think my observation of fact, I do sit on both sides of it as well. Like it hurts. We're going to talk about budget shortly. And, you know, as we're making cuts, those eventually are FTEs. So you want the kids to have that level of access. So I think my general view was it would be irresponsible for us to not at least begin to say, hey, what is the data? You know, do a study and what might it mean, which is a good start. I actually, the one thing you said just a minute ago, I took a note, was it would be possible for exemptions.
Oh, absolutely. So if someone is in free reduced lunch, we
Yeah,
wouldn't.
if you're free,
Right.
Yeah, we wouldn't charge them. Yeah. Yeah. Any student that has free reduced lunch wouldn't charge.
And kindergarten's not on here.
Kindergarten is not on here because of the tuition.
We already, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I think it's generally speaking, I think maybe we should look to bring it up in the early vote in the spring. Do we want to pursue it? And this is new information for me.
Yeah, we'd have to look at the fall, Tim, if we're gonna, because I think we want to.
I'm sorry, in my head, I said this.
Yes, we want to make sure that we had enough information to make a decision, late fall, early winter, and enough time to inform families and make sure they can plan for that. If we even go in that direction, I'm just saying, just kind of putting the timeline out there. And it would be part of the budget cycle too, so we would be able to use that offset in the projections. But, as Will said, it's kind of hard to predict if folks are going to say, I'm going to drive my kids there, because they could. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah, that would be, that to me, I think I could feel okay if we did a little more study, at least that we can make a reasonable projection. If you look at some of these neighboring groups, you'd say, one, what does it result in terms of cost? And two, what was their drop off?
So what would be some of the things you'd like us to look at? So that you'd like the drop off?
I think, in line with what Will just said a minute ago, like if we said, looking at the table, we're projecting 632? I forget.
968 students. Is that?
Yes.
How many total students was 968 is what take the bus now we're basing that off?
Yes, that's total riders.
Yeah. So
and then that 10% reduction that's there, that's what we figured for free reduced lunch. So those 97 students, we take them off the list, and then it would end up being 871.
$200. So then you would kind of say, of those 871,
right,
you get it.
Right.
And I would say, if you say whether it's Needham, Norwood, you had a projection, what's the actual?
Sure.
If they have it, that would be one, I think that would help with your question.
Yeah, I think if they had some drop off, they've been doing it so long, I don't know if they would have that data, but we'll ask.
Yeah, and even, I don't know, that could be part of our job. When we're talking to the community, it's like, how do you feel about bus fees? And if there was a bus fee, would you, if we talk to 100 people, we get a quick sample size of 10% of them say, I'll just drive my kid, I'm home.
Right.
It's extra time with my kid in the car, it's 15 extra minutes with my kid. But
that might be interesting too. Would we want to do a survey at the beginning just to hear what the community? I'm not going to say yes or no. It's just something to think about.
Okay. Anything else that you want us to focus on or look at?
I mean, I'd like to understand what the administration actually looks
Okay.
like, especially because we do have, you know, a unique setup here, right? Like, I think of the spacing of my own children and like, I can see that, you
Sure.
know, we'd be in
Yeah, from where
different
you
spots.
live, it would be.
Yeah.
Same thing. You would pay to Wheelock and not to the other two schools for elementary.
The opposite, I think, right? I wouldn't have to pay Wheelock, I'd pay for the other.
You'd be within a mile,
Right.
within 2 miles of
Oh,
Wheelock,
right,
so you'd
I
have
see
to
what
pay
you're
that.
saying. Yes. But in that space as well, like there's gonna have to be an individual who's looking at that and then, you know what I mean? Like every year kind of change, it's gonna be, I guess, task heavy.
Yeah, for sure. If you think of anything else, let me know. Just shoot me an email, because we have time to do this. It's not like we have to do it tomorrow morning. But we'll start working on it, getting some information, and then,
I think we should also think about, like, we see an estimate here because we're, you know, I understand how we got to these numbers, but I think it would be helpful to understand, and maybe this more comes from us, what number would this make sense, right? Like, we see a potential of 174,000 right now. Does that make sense? Does it need to be 225 to make sense? Does it need to be 150? Like, I think we need to understand what number, because I do think there's going to be some, if we were to go do this, there will be initial churn and then it'll be fine, right? But we need to understand kind of the trade-off for the churn to get to that point if we decide we're going to be doing this. Does that make sense?
and we just put 200 down there, but if you look at,
No, I see that, but I think like we need to understand like 225 makes a ton of sense
Right.
because we're now offsetting this and that gets us XYZ, right?
But my point is that you have to decide what that number is. We just put
Right.
200 down there, because if you look at, Dedham's 180, Holliston's 240, Millis is 282, Natick 200, Needham 415,
Yeah,
with a family cap of 940.
right.
300 in Norwood, 300 in Walpole, Westwood 180. So we just kind of lowballed out a little bit for 200, just to make it an even number to
Yeah.
try to get some data there.
But I think even understanding, well, when you're talking to the community, is there a price point
Yeah,
where they'd be open?
well, I
to
totally
this?
agree. And then to
It's
Tim's
not just
point,
yes or no, right?
yeah, to Tim's point, if, the price point, we do, we figure out what the price point is, figure out some drop off. So maybe this number comes in at 100, maybe it comes in at 200. So
Right.
one's 2 FTEs and one's 3, and that's a big difference to our kids.
Yeah.
So it's like, it's a lot of moving part. I mean, it's a tough one, but
For sure.
as we're pulling the community, we can,
Yes, I mean, I do think, like, it's just listening to Michelle too. A survey on that would be interesting, because generally, we take the perspective of the kids in the school today, but it is asking the whole community to fund it. So it would be interesting data. And part of that, I just thought of whoever said, what price point might it be worthwhile?
But the families, not the whole community though, right? The families with school-age children we're talking.
I would think if you're surveying though, it's related to the town and the budget that we get as well.
Yeah, but I think, I don't know, to your point earlier, though, I mean, if you're saying like this is something that you're asking the families to do, which in theory might give some relief to the community members that don't have children in the schools, then it's really the people who have to pay the money that are going to have a horse in the game that need to decide whether they'd be willing to pay that or not. But that's just, and that's who's affected by it. It's who's going to have to put the cash outlay.
Yeah, I'm processing in my brain. Because then the other side is eventually we're going to go to the town meeting and ask for the budget for the entire community.
Yeah, true.
So yeah, it's a
Okay.
interesting topic.
It gives us a good start anyway. So thank you.
Okay, so no change. This year's budget includes all the busing, everything. Okay, just good.
It does.
So speaking of budget, next on the agenda is FY24 budget update. So Michael and Michelle.
So the only thing I have to share is that hopefully you got your budget mailer in the mail this week. That really outlines kind of where we are with our budget, what the 4.23 does, and all the other information. And I thought it was helpful for people. I've got a lot of good feedback on it. So
Same, it was really well done.
Yeah, I thought that was
Yeah.
excellent.
Get to see all our favorite teachers in the spotlight. It was great.
So the number is at this point what it is, and that's what the warrant committee is taking.
So that's what's taken forward.
That's what's taken
bringing
forward.
And have they voted on it? I mean, I would assume they have.
So yeah, it's a balanced budget for the town. So that's their recommendation.
Okay. Community engagement and communications, and now seen a little more of what Michelle's been doing.
Yeah, I feel like it's been a busy week.
Yes.
I don't have any major updates. Like we've had a busy week on social media, but it's all been positive. So yeah.
Yeah, no, it's been, I think a lot of focus has been on the strategic plan, for in Kristen or Christine?
Kristen,
Kristen, I
Yeah.
want to make sure.
whatever. Whatever, I'll answer. Hey,
Just
you.
one topic that I also went back and forth for Kristen and Will. Last year, we tried, I called it almost like a pilot this year, where we were trying, I think there's been some effort to continue to get closer to the schools, each schools and and organizations like the PTO and the site council to make sure they're working well. So what we did at the beginning of the year is you had each member kind of target one school to attend one or two, a couple PTOs. And just get to know them for I think, so we did it, I think, somewhat informally, but we lost Jess.
Right, Dale and Memorial are the two schools up for grabs. If either of you want to join probably the last PTO meeting at this point, because I'd have to look at their calendars. But if one of you wanted to grab Dale and the other wanted to grab Memorial, you're really just
Memorial?
Dale.
Dale, okay. Just wondering if does it make more sense to not be in the one?
The general thought was
I don't
we
know,
don't want
does it
to overthink it. Like
Okay.
if you're running around and you say, hey, you know what, I never get around to going to one where my child is, great. But and we was kind of loose. Like, I think a few of us who went. It was, for me, one of the ones I went. It was fairly uplifting.
Which one do you want?
I'll go Memorial. I like your idea. You can go to Dale because my kids will be there, I guess.
Okay. Love Dale.
And the
I'm always
idea
at Dale.
was again just reaching out to the chair and saying, hey, with your permission, I'd love to attend.
And this
Okay.
is the
Right? It's like
PTO
we are
chair?
here just to kind of listen, hear how you operate, and
yeah, the PTO's president of Memorial and the PTO president of Dale.
Okay.
Okay. With the community engagement thing, does so since I decided to run, I've been trying to come to the meetings, and I went to the Zoom that Tim, you and Leo hosted.
Yeah.
I think that was a pilot, but like, is that continuing? Is that another thing we
Was it
can
a
talk
budget
about?
workshop?
What's that?
No,
Was
you're
it a
talking about
budget?
The informal
Oh,
No,
conversation.
it's just like, so people know like we're posted and we're
Got it.
there. Like, but did you guys see? I just went to one. Did
Yeah.
people show up to those, or was it not worth it? Just go meet with people one-on-one, or?
I felt like we had good feedback and attendance at the Zoom one, and then the one in person we had 2 people show up.
Okay.
I mean, I think they're worthwhile because I think, there's a optics to it that we do want to hear what you have to say, right? Like, which I think is important. So I actually feel like attendance matters less right now, if that makes sense, and more the opportunity for people to reach out.
Sure, no, that makes sense.
But I don't know where we land right now in regards to like it's the end of the school year. Like, do we think about having a more set schedule next year if we want to continue with it?
That's, I think, I'm thinking more towards next year.
Next
I thought
year.
the one we went, it was a different environment than we're used to in this room for the meetings. It was a little more discussion, which was worthwhile. So I thought it was good.
Okay.
I would-
Just when I saw community engagement, that's what I thought of. So I would encourage us to do that if that's something we can still do. But if it's for next year because we're winding down, that's cool. But I vote to keep again for the optics. So there's a point where you can get us.
You can also, like, I tried it last year when I ran again. It was interesting. I just put out like I said, hey, I'd like to hear from people as running, but you were able to easily call the library and get a room, put it up on the patch. Hey, I'd love to talk to you. I'm new to the school committee. So I think in general, an individual, you can say I represent the school committee. I'd love to listen, right? Not as a body, but high level. I think Leo was at the other one. I think we would say somewhere around couple a semester, first half,
Yeah.
second half is reasonable. That would be my thought. So that would come up, I think, at the beginning of the year, but I don't think anything would change. I thought it was positive.
Yeah.
Heck, maybe that was one of the things that had you raise your hand.
Well, it's more visibility, right? I'm here to hopefully hear from the community to do it. And I think it's a good thing.
Yeah, no, and that was the theory between that, PTOs and other things. And the work Michelle's been doing has been amazing. So, okay, that's a good update. Strategic plan, I don't know if there's anything.
We did.
Yeah, we kind of covered that. I stepped on that. So policy update. I really get to say welcome to the school committee. By any chance, in your packet, I want to ask a quick question and then I'll describe the process. But did you see we shared policy section A and B?
I didn't see it.
No.
No.
Okay, not surprising at all. So, officially for us, I think that was an informational item. Typically, if we were to change a policy, it's brought forward with whatever the change is, first as an informational item where we don't discuss it. We ask the committee to read through it. Then it's a first reading. We take comments, questions from the members of the committee. We still don't vote. And then the next meeting, we would vote on it. That's if we were to make changes to a given policy. Okay. So the overarching process, and Michelle, sorry, because you've been members out here have heard it before, but overarching, our policy is still a PDF document. If you ever try to search and find something online, it's not the easiest. And MASC has a whole process to digitize that. So we are going through that now, trying to move the policy online. If you look at other school districts, sometimes you can easily search and see what's going on. What they're doing is we're partnering with a guy named Jim Hardy. He's done this with over 100 school districts. And he reviews our policies, their updates, and we have meetings. We're trying to do about every month or so, where some things it's modernizing, it's bringing forward like pronouns, things like that are just fairly simple to put forward. Sometimes they'll say, hey, yours is pretty close. And, but you might want to make these changes. And sometimes they're going to say, we highly recommend you make these changes. So that process, though, is pretty lengthy because it's not like we found one policy I think we went through that we made a change this year. We probably had almost 2 hours of conversations about it. I didn't do the numbers, but there's hundreds of pages of policy. So the way it works, though, is Leo and I are on the policy subcommittee. We kind of meet with them. You'll see in your packets. We made really working with MASC, we make recommended changes to them, and then we would be voting on those changes as a kind of like very similar to the consent agenda. It's a whole section at that, and the last thing we vote for that as quote inform, so because you want to get through the entire policy manual. And I'm getting looks. I know the looks. It's like, gosh, policy is the worst. Wait till you get in it, though. It can get pretty fun.
Agree to disagree.
I don't believe you.
Yeah, it's a tricky one. Like right when you start, but it is worthwhile. You start reading it. It's these things, but that our policy is incredibly important. But so what we would do is gradually vote in each section over probably about a 6-month period. We voted in as quote inform, and once we complete that, the entire manual gets voted in and is transitioned over.
So you need us to review A and B? Is this what?
Correct.
you're
Yeah.
starting
So
with?
what I was going to suggest was, consider it back. We're not going to do the first reading. I was going to just make 1 or 2 comments so you can understand it. And then at the next meeting, read through it and see if you have questions or whatnot.
Okay.
You can, some of those questions they're in, the meetings are recorded, or you can ask, hey, what's going on? And I would just say, in general, my philosophy on this is something we've said we want to do. It's a lot easier for the public to work with us if they can find and understand the policy. But the policy, one of the things we discovered in one of the workshops, the schools have been here since 1666. And the policies have gradually been moving on for all that period. We don't necessarily, sometimes there might be things in there and say, hey, we might want to change that. It's not causing us, like bad things aren't happening. I don't necessarily want to revisit every policy, because I think we would never get through it. So the general spirit of it has been, make the changes that we have to make. My expectation there are a few policies that we will want to bring forward, outside of that process. But so when you review it, just that's the way that I, at least as one member of the body, have been looking at it. Sometimes as we're reviewing it, hey, why did they do it that way 20 years ago? And then I'm saying to myself, okay, what bad things happen if we, has anything bad happened because we do that? The answer is no. Sometimes I'm like, well, let's not change it. And if it's not broken, sure, don't fix it. So that's the process on it. And what you see is almost like a red line document. So changes that we're recommending are in red. Let me make sure I have this right. Which is you're probably used to. Black text is the current Medfield policy. Red text is either sections that are added or deleted, like, comments or sections that are added or deleted. And then red is deleted or added. And then blue is newly added sections or words.
How come sometimes things are highlighted and sometimes they're not? Does that mean anything?
Comments? Comments on the highlighted ones?
Not really, no.
Are you looking at A or B?
I'm in AB, right? Literally AB.
I see A, B2 and BB2. Oh, okay. So yeah, all right. A, within A.
Is that just a search through all the, to change school system and school district? Is that why it's highlighted? There was a search that went through that.
Okay.
Yeah. So you can see that those are, some of those things you'll see it throughout and as you look through it. So school system versus school district.
It was a find or replace they were doing.
I see.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so.
Okay.
But it is, it's worthwhile even now. I'll be honest, I don't think I'll have in my memory, and Leo's not here right now. Why did we make every single change? In some cases, but we're trying to have somebody from the administration there. Some of the policies are, hey, how do we do that today? If we were to change it, what's the impact, et cetera. So it's a big job. The theory is, though, every month we'd be bringing forward 1 to 2 sections and, do a first reading, do a second reading, and then vote. But you'd be doing, first reading for section A, B in the next meeting. And I would be bringing section CD forward as an informational item. The following meeting would be, A, B, let's try to take a vote, or if there's questions, and then discuss CD.
Okay.
So it's exciting undertaking.
You say so.
Well, we opened the meeting, there was so much enthusiasm. I said, hey, I'm in, I'm all in.
I'm all in. You can do the policy. I'll do the other stuff.
Picking and choosing.
Love the transparency. So, and we wanted to bring C and D forward. We have not gotten those back yet from MASC. So that's why we wanted to have them in the packet this week, but we didn't get them. So we haven't put them forward. Okay, so any other questions? I will not describe that again.
Hopefully everyone has it now.
I hear Andre over there who's keeping us honest on that process too, because it is tricky. Informational items.
Yeah, Mr. Chair, we have 3 items in there. Accept Collaborative FY23 Quarter 3 report. So we belong to the Accept Collaborative, the town, Medfield Public Schools. I sit in their board of directors, and they provide us with an update that I share with you folks every quarter. The projected enrollment spring update, this came in at the end of March, and it's about a month and a half early, so that was great. We forwarded that out. It's on our website as soon as we got it. It doesn't show a huge change from what the fall projections are, but if you look at some of those grade levels, you see some big numbers coming in, in terms of 274 in a grade level, 279 in a grade level, 283 in a grade level, 284 in a grade level. So certainly we're looking at fitting kids in the buildings at some point in the near future, if those come to fruition. So good information to look at. They have a projected 10-year change of enrollment increase of 15.6%. So 387 kids. And I think we've talked about it in meetings before where we've seen the spike and the dip happen in Medfield over a 30-year span as it goes through, where the spikes up close to a little over 3,000 and goes back down again. It keeps going. The former town administrator Mike Sullivan had a document, which we don't know where it is, but he had showed us, Michael and I, one time, and it was the same in the 60s and 70s, and just kind of went through, and the 90s again, and I think we're kind of headed that way. So we'll see how it comes out, but that's the most recent. And then the last thing is a copy of the letter that Michael submitted on behalf of the district to the Division of Capital Asset Management and Maintenance, and it's a request for a waiver of going through the bid process so that we can get our fire alarm system at the high school fixed quickly. And the fire chief wants it done sooner rather than later. We have this on the capital budget, so we were looking at allocation for May 1st at town meeting and then doing this over the summer. The fire chief wants it done today. So we're asking for a waiver, and he was supportive in that. The fire chief, Michael and I presented this to the select board the other day, and they approved the waiver as well. So we're submitting that, and we'll wait to hear back from them. But we want to get that done very soon.
Sorry, do we have someone lined up to do that work?
So we have a company that we use for our systems now in all of our schools. So we would, if we're able to bypass the bid process, then we would probably have them just come and do it, because they know our system, they know our school.
Okay.
We have them do that. So.
And we think they'd be available to get in and get it done in the chief's.
Yeah, I mean, it
demands.
takes a while. We did the middle school one. Was that 3 years ago, Michael? 2 or 3 years ago? Right before COVID. So we had that done in the summertime. They actually would come in at night and do some of the rough wiring and do some of the work. And then when students weren't there, and then once summer hit, they finished the whole thing. So I'm assuming they'll do something similar to that, but probably work the night shift to get it done sooner rather than later based on what the chief recommends.
Yeah.
But we'll keep you updated on that as soon as we hear something. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Okay, thanks. I was just reading through that. So next on is future agenda
Sorry,
items.
one more thing. Did you have the accept quarter report in there as well?
Yeah.
Okay, you mentioned that.
I did.
Sorry, to you.
That's
Sorry.
right. That's all right.
Yeah, so, and future agenda items, what I've seen in my tenure here, these are items that we, at the time we say we want to cover. Sometimes as they come up, they eventually lead to conversations you might have, whether it's, somebody at the it might be really important for one member, and sometimes based on the conversations they may have, we may or may not do it. My experience has been, as Dr. Marsden's always been very open to conversations with us. The chair, I would handle this the same way as my predecessors. The door is open as long as we're not in quorum in terms of discussing the concern and sharing, hey, this is the feedback, or this is what's happened in the past. But in general, I think, we want to hear about what are we missing on the agenda, trying to move it forward. So right now, the school chair choice hearing, I think that's something we are planning on doing.
Required to.
Yeah. And that's, would be.
Second meeting in May.
Okay.
And what
is
would
that?
the, yeah, go ahead.
So that's when we have a public hearing for school choice. So that allows us to either opt into school choice, which would allow students from other towns to come to Medfield, or say we're not going to participate in school choice.
Okay.
So that's that process that we have each year.
Open hearing meaning we try and get more people from the town to come here to talk about it. Is that what open hearing means?
It's just a public hearing. It's a requirement that we allow anyone that wants to come in and talk about that particular issue. But we actually open up the meeting as a hearing. This is the public hearing for school choice starts. We have the open, and then we close it, and then we start the meeting after.
Oh, okay.
So
hearing's like slightly different. than
yeah, so it's
meeting.
required by law. So we have two. We have the budget hearing that's required by law, and then this one.
Okay, thanks.
It is also, in general, it fosters more conversation. The public input in general, we listen, we don't necessarily respond. A public hearing, or depending what it is, there may be more conversation. They're not necessarily bound by all the rules of the normal public comment. That's at least my understanding. Something different.
So that'll be on the next agenda, you're saying?
So the next meeting is right before town meeting on the 1st.
Yeah.
And then the second meeting in May would be that would be on the agenda. That would start the meeting. We have
Okay.
a hearing.
And in preparation for that, is there any data or previously prepared reports or information that just to help educate on
Sure. I mean,
perspectives on that?
What would you folks like on that?
I think just an understanding of, maybe what's happening in other communities and, what the demand has been in Medfield, just a better understanding of
Sure.
it.
We put something together on that.
Okay.
I think the other one was start times. If that's something we're going to want to look into, people need to plan.
So this would be adjusting the middle and the high school start times to be later. Lily, how do you feel about that?
I think it's a good idea. I think often like a lot of people in the middle of high school get like the least amount of sleep when like they should be getting the most because of such an early start time. And I know it would be like a big adjustment for like sports and stuff like that. But I know like a couple other towns do it and they seem to like it.
So we'll talk about that in the future, on a future agenda item.
Have we talked about that at all yet? Like, is that something
We've talked a little bit in committees. When we did negotiations with the teachers, we talked about it last time. So that's be an impact bargaining with the teachers union and all that, if we were to make any change, but we were talking about it a lot more and then COVID hit. So that kind of threw us off a little bit. So it was definitely on the agenda prior to COVID, and then other things took precedent.
and roughly it's like push middle and high school back? And is
We haven't gotten that far.
like, okay, it's not even like, we don't even
It's
know.
more
for
the
sure.
concept,
Okay.
Yeah, so we're going to try to get
later.
that on as an agenda item, I think,
Yeah.
before the year.
Okay.
All right, so and that's when we want to talk through it. Was there one thing I guess it's not on there. So, okay, it's not on the agenda, we'll cover it. Actually, I think it would be okay. We talked about Metro West. When I thought we were going to try to update folks on that.
Oh, so yeah, we could talk about that. I know we had mentioned that. It was the last meeting, or the meeting before. So
Yeah, and I thought we had. It looks
So
like
on May 8th, we are going to host an event, a community conversation at Memorial School, reviewing the Metro West data. And we have folks that Russ and Mary, who did the presentation here, will be there as well. But we're really trying to gear it toward elementary parents and middle school parents who, in a blink of an eye, have kids in high school. So we want to try to get those people engaged with some of this work and understand the issues around mental illness, substance abuse, those kinds of things. So we're having it at Memorial for that reason, to try to get more people in. Cafeteria also has round tables, so it's set up great for discussion. And they've worked out a really good plan for it. And there's a flyer that's going home right after vacation, because if we send it home tomorrow, no one's going to look at it. So, but it's been out on social media. I think Medfield Outreach, who's working with us on this, I think Kathy sent it out. Kathy McDonald sent it out on Twitter this week. So we're excited about it. I think it's going to be a great, presentation and conversation, and something that we want to do with younger parents for a while. So
You said Anime is involved with that as
Anime is
well?
also involved in it, correct?
that's great. I mean, I appreciate the Metro West survey results. It's information. It's tough information to get. It's all information is good, and sharing it. I think that's the thing. People are surprised as you get into middle school and high school what's going on. So I think we will be asking.
And one of the
parents.
great things they put together is a handout, a take home for every person that goes, that really talks about how to have a conversation with your child about this at every age level. So age appropriate conversations about substance abuse, mental health, that everyone can take home with them and implement right away in their house. So they did a great job of that. We're looking forward to it.
How is it? How many people usually attended the last one?
So the last time
I
we
know
did
it's
it,
like
that was
we did during COVID and
before COVID. We had one in this room with Christy Barney as a guest speaker. I bet we had 40 people, maybe 50. That was probably the best attended one we've had.
Yeah.
So years ago, the data would be presented and coupled with an attorney that would do social host liability, so that parents would come to hear that, and then get hit with the information too. So that wasn't really well attended, but at least since I've been here, it wasn't super well attended. So we tried to get another way to do it and get people involved in it.
Yeah.
Okay. I think that.
See if Lily has an update.
Lily.
Yeah, I'll just talk about our upcoming Stuco event, which is Putting for Patients. It's the 8th annual one. And it's at the Turf. It's April 30th from 12 to 3. And it's like an 18 whole mini golf course, and then there's like raffles, face paint, like food. It's a really fun event. All the proceeds go to the Jimmy Fund, and it's really fun. For children, it's $15, and for adults, it's $20.
Wow, you guys are getting steep, huh? Those are
Well,
cheap green
it's
fees.
going to the Jimmy Fund, but
Oh, cheap. I'm comparing it to those mini courses, but I'm all for it.
It's really well done. You guys do an awesome job with that each year.
I see a little bit of a smile over there. It might be because it's you're getting to the end. What's
yeah, I'm very close to the end. Yeah.
not of the meeting.
Well, that,
Oh,
that
maybe
too.
both.
That too.
Are you doing any kind of one of the senior projects?
Yeah, I am doing a senior project. Me and my friend are like digitizing like the cross country and track records, and we're gonna make a website and like talk a lot about like the team history and stuff.
You said the
Cross country and track
Cross
records.
country.
okay. Great. Okay, maybe did you reference that before? Maybe Michael mentioned it.
I don't know. I was talking to a few people before the meeting about it.
I mean, Will, that sounds a little more interesting than policy.
It is. Yeah, we talked about it. I run that program at Wellesley High School. So the senior project program. Super cool to get kids out and do community service or internships. So I think it's cool. She's doing it with my neighbors. So I'm sure they'll do a great job.
Yeah, sure. No, that's great. Thanks for the update. Next meeting would be May 1st. That's before town meeting. I think it's a placeholder depending on what if anything comes up. Is that correct? So
Right.
it's
We
not.
typically have a meeting prior anyway, but we always traditionally have a placeholder there. So even if there's nothing if something doesn't come up, we'll typically still have a meeting, but that's your call. What we'd like to do.
So, but that would be right before town meeting, but we're not putting a traditional agenda
Correct.
on that meeting.
Right, correct.
Right. Okay.
So I have a future agenda item, but again, never know what we can talk about or not talk about. So we're here, so I'm going to talk. Because it came through recently, and in some pre-election conversation with families, it came up. And so there is a request and a desire, I think, to have the schools get back to families who are making the choice to put their children in private schools, to understand and get better feedback from those families. And so it's been proposed. Now I've heard a few people propose it separately. Is that something that we could, produce a survey and just for those willing to provide that information? And it's something I'd be happy to follow up on and then report back to this group on if we wanted to just look into it a little bit more as an agenda topic. I'd also like to work with you and figure out how we might get that information as well from other districts, because my sense is that this is something that is happening across the board that started with the pandemic. And I think there's a lot of reasons, and some of them are town specific and school specific. Absolutely. Some of them are just broader community,
Right.
And what's happening in the world. So I think there's a lot of reasons, and it would be interesting to know what's happening with our families in Medfield, but also, how that compares to other districts. What is their rate of students making that switch?
So
where do we
this
compare?
came out of when superintendent advisory, not last month, the time before. So parents have suggested that to me. We did put together a draft survey, so it's ready to go. We just need to
Okay.
kind of implement it. We've talked to guidance as part of what they do, and maybe implement it to people once they let us know that they're leaving.
Yeah.
Which quite frankly isn't a lot of people. So
Yeah, I mean,
I know there's like urban legends out there, and numbers that are flying around just aren't accurate.
I know, and that's why I think it would
Yeah.
be helpful to have more information that's real information
sure.
to educate both ourselves and the community on that, because it is hard to know
Yep.
when you just
Yeah,
get
sure.
the feedback.
Yep. Yeah.
But I think it would be good and smart and wise of us to just understand.
Yeah, I heard the same things. I heard it was like, I don't know if you know the numbers, but like it was like 7 this year, but now it's accumulated up to like a rising ninth graders. There's 37 or something. And I don't know if that's accurate or not, but that was like, again, these are like, what you call them, pre-election conversations.
So what people do is they conflate people that are interested and are looking and kicking the tires on a private school with people that actually go into private school. and they put those numbers together. So that's kind of what it is. I mean, it's not, I don't know the exact numbers right now. I just know they're not what I keep hearing and what you heard over the weekend and talked to me about. Just wasn't that number, so. We have the guidance department keeps a running record of it, like where the information was sent, what school people interested in, and whether or not they're going to come back. The last time I looked at it, there were people that had made decisions, and then more than half of them were going to Medfield High School. So it's people kicking tires, and some go and some don't.
But if we have the information, it'd be
Yeah,
great to take a fresh look at it. If
Yeah,
we have
for
a
sure.
survey that's ready to go, it's, probably worth making it available to those who are interested in sharing that information. And then just, having kind of a summation of where we feel we stand as a community, given that. So
Yeah, it makes sense.
I know just the other day, talking to family in Wellesley who choose to go to private school, telling me just the applications and the waits and the private schools are being bombarded right now from every community. So I don't know how real that is, but
Yeah.
it seems like they're getting it from all sides. So
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, no, thank you. So, anything else? I think sometimes it's historically anything else exciting, interesting, off, not so much school business is we sometimes ask.
Mid school had their first track meet today. I'll tell you that.
Middle school?
Hot day in Midway, but yes.
I was just gonna say, so since we're allowed to talk now, there's the open meeting laws for all the thousands listening at home. They're like, there's a lot to read.
There's thousands listening at home.
Yeah, there's
Well,
thousands. So I can always email one person, right? And we can meet one-on-one?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. I just
Yeah.
it was a lot. It's a lot to read. I just
What
want
you
to make
can't do is you can't talk to Kristen about this color water bottle and then come meet with me and talk to me and try to convince me that we need that color water bottle and then go meet with Tim. You can't have one-on-one conversations with multiple people around something that we're going to be deliberating in the
Right.
future.
Yeah.
But you can have one-on-ones with people and get information and talk about past things that happened or anything that's on your mind.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
And welcome both of you.
Thank you.
Yeah, it's hopefully, I think, did we distribute too? There's at least an onboarding.
Yes, Michelle
Yes.
took care of
And
us
yeah,
right
we-
away. Thank you, Michelle.
Welcome.
Yeah, no, and I think that, I think everybody on the committee was super appreciative. I haven't spent one-on-one time, but we heard very positive things, which was great, and our,
Something about you.
About what? About us?
yes.
It was you. It was all about
I
you.
did.
Oh, nice.
But no, I mean, there was incredible appreciation that you're raising your hand. Hopefully a year or 2 years from now, to say, hey, that was fantastic.
I think we're both signed up for our big 8-hour class at this point, right?
Yes.
So
Charting the course.
When do you go?
charting it in Billerica.
Oh,
First weekend in May.
I'm going to Danvers June 17th.
I went to Danvers.
It's when sports are finally over. It's my first free
Yeah.
Saturday, and I spent 8 hours learning about school.
I think that's how mine was last year.
Okay, do we hear a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second,
Dude, that's a second.
Second, Kristen.
you know you want to stay talk about policy. Don't lie.
So everything we do, we have to second.
Meeting adjourned.